Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Solio Analytics podcast. We are in Game Week 30 and we are recording just after the Brentford loss to West Ham on penalties. What was that Dango Tara penalty? But we can talk about that later. So we're going to be, what is the word? Digressing? No, not digressing.
The opposite. No, we're talking about the very important topics, aren't we?
I forget the surgical... whatever it is. Anyway, we will be digging into the blanks and doubles. We'll talk about the quarterfinal draw for the FA Cup, what it means for blanks, doubles, chips, all of that good stuff. But first, hello, Jonny. How are you?
Hello, Pras. Yes, nice to be back. Thank you for filling in for me last week. I was loading up the software for recording this, and I had all the FA Cup stuff from the previous round reloaded in, so it comes around quick. And
just like the next one will.
The TLDR version is that we have one very important FA Cup fixture, and it's important to wait and see which way that one goes. And otherwise, roll your transfers, save your chips. There
you go.
Done.
Tune in next week.
Same as the last one we did, I think. But yeah, very exciting.
Dissecting is the word I was looking for.
Okay.
There we go. Anyway, so good to be back. We're going to keep this one concise, mostly because it's almost 11 p.m. and my wife needs to go to bed at midnight. But no, in all seriousness, we will start first talking about the FA Cup quarterfinal draw. We'll talk about where those fixtures will go, if they are postponed, whether they will be postponed, all of them or not. We'll talk about that. And then just general permutations for the fixtures and how they will land in 33 and so on and so forth. So, shall we kick off, Jonny?
Yes. Do we have a quick announcement before we start?
We do. I was waiting for your nice handshake visual, which was
it's coming.
us. Yes, there we go. So, people who've listened to me on The Wire, they know about Crowd, but for the Solio listeners as well, Crowd is this platform which allows you to do duels. So every week we have these benching decisions on Anderson versus Hill and things like that. And so essentially you're trying to crowdsource the answer in terms of what do people think who is better. And these are always duels. So it's always been two players. It can be Bruno Fernandes versus Haaland one week. It can be Anderson versus Lacroix another. And there's multiple of these duels every single week. So at Solio, we do, as a newer platform, we do look for ways to collaborate with up-and-coming platforms like Crowd. And so we're proud to be partnering up with them for the rest of the season. And what that means is on Crowd, you can see Solio's expected points. So if you are deciding between the Andersons and the Lacroix, you can look at Solio's numbers in there and look at what is the projected points or the expected value of that player. If you were like me or Jonny, you would essentially always pick the guy with the higher points. But no, I'm joking.
Well,
you could disagree.
People have a slightly different sort of distribution of points. So actually, two players with the same projected points overall, one of them is more likely. Well, we talk about floor and ceiling stuff, but it is it makes sense, especially with DEFCONs. That is capped at 2 points and you get it or you don't. Whereas goals, you can score a hat trick, you can keep going after that. But if James Garner gets 29 DEFCONs or however many he did, 2 points.
Not yet. I mean, this season, yes, but maybe that will change next year. I don't know anything, but saying, yeah.
But
Garner did deserve more than 2 DEFCON points.
Yeah, we're always comparing different players. People saying, should I get this guy or that guy? You can see what everyone else is doing. We can see our points. So very exciting.
And ultimately, a lot of these duels will be players similar on expected points, right? So it'll be up to you guys. Yeah. The better you vote, the more points you get, the higher your vote counts and stuff like that. So if you want to check it out, it is CrowdFPL.com and the link will be in the description in this video.
I'll put it down there, yes. Right, should we move on to the draw straight off?
The draw itself, yes. So maybe I'll just kick off quickly in terms of the big teams. So Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool. So sorry for the other teams, especially Leeds fans. They get very annoyed very quickly. So the big teams have been kept apart by and large, apart from Man City and Liverpool. And that's good in the sense of, if you look at the fourth fixture here, which is West Ham versus Leeds, there's a threat that actually doesn't really cause a blank. More on that later. Mm-hmm. But it is Southampton, Arsenal. Of course, Arsenal will be heavy favourites there. Chelsea, Port Vale. Again, Chelsea heavy favourites there. Man City, Liverpool is going to be the big one. It's going to be the one that might keep people from pressing that button in Game Week 32, even though you have 2 weeks or 3 weeks to ponder. You might not want to press that button. And then, as I said, West Ham versus Leeds after this emphatic victory over Brentford. That was a fun game, actually. I watched it. And if you missed it, do check out Otara's penalty, the one I talked about. He tried the Panenka.
Did he do it
and
again?
It was one of those.
No.
It was one of those embarrassing ones where the keeper didn't even flinch. He was just standing there. So not very nice.
Yes.
And as an Otara owner, I worry that that's going to put him in the naughty step or something.
Well, he doesn't normally take penalties. I think he's not exactly lost them, but yeah, maybe. The thing we did avoid was Southampton and Port Vale, obviously the two non-Premier League teams. So if they'd drawn each other, we would have a guaranteed non-Premier League team in the semi-finals, which would mean that we'd have at most 3 games that could move around, or 3 Premier League games. Obviously, it's going to affect their league. So we have avoided that. But that also means that there's a chance that we could have 2 non-Premier League teams. They both won.
Of course.
Unlikely.
Guys, remember Jonny has played his
I've used the
right?
chips,
So he's going to...
I'm looking at all the talent. Yeah, I mean, the max chaos draw that we could have looked for was Arsenal, Chelsea, City and Liverpool all avoiding each other, which was pretty possible. Because then they're all fairly heavy favourites, especially once teams like Fulham went out and Brentford. So we've actually got the other 2 Premier League teams left, are West Ham and Leeds, who are, they're probably focusing on the FA Cup now if they can. Well, West Ham have got to stay up, but they're not the strongest. Newcastle have gone as well. So yeah, they would have been all heavy favourites. So then you go, okay, those 4 go through, and they're all in Europe, so they'd be pretty likely to be causing doubles as well. So we didn't quite get that. We do now have an either or for City and Liverpool, which is, as we said, the pivotal one. Arsenal and Chelsea should be fairly heavy favourites. It doesn't always, we saw Sunderland lost to Port Vale, obviously. I know they're not as strong as Chelsea, but they put out a pretty full strength team. So it happens. You get these upsets.
Yeah.
But I think...
I mean, it can always happen. But I think the 2 interesting ones are the bottom 2. And as people know who've listened to this throughout, that these are the semifinals will be played in Game Week 34. So there is a clash that will be caused by that. And that's probably the next slide that we can go to. But importantly, Game Week 34 has a midweek where there's European games. So the idea that Arsenal, go through, Chelsea go through, Man City or Liverpool definitely go through, that because they could still be in Europe, and they don't actually have to be, but if they still progress into the next round, they will have to start to think about what happens if, and so their fixtures are likely to move to Game Week 33, which is a completely free midweek. West Ham Leeds is not the case. And why do we think that's a case of maybe that it stays in 34?
Yeah, so I'll just bring up the sort of calendar for the tail end of the season. I've cut off Game Week 30 here just so it can fit. So we've got Game Week 31 through to 38 with our international break between Game Week 31 and 32. To just give it, so the reminder is that there's 3 game weeks that clash with a cup weekend. So Game Week 31 we know clashes with the League Cup final. So we've already know the finalists. We know it's Arsenal against Man City, and in fact Arsenal's game against Wolves has already been brought forward and played. So we've got a floating Man City Palace from that one that can't fit in that weekend to rearrange. Game Week 34 clashes with the FA Cup semi-finals. So we now know the quarterfinalists, but we, trying to work out which 4 of those will make the semis. And the Game Week 37 clashes with the FA Cup final. So whichever 2 teams make the final. That one's a bit less important because actually, as we saw last year, they just moved them into the midweek in 37 because there's that free midweek. The only wrinkle is that it's the Europa League final that midweek. So last year we were potentially seeing an issue with Villa Tottenham was going to have to move forward into 36 rather than backwards into the same midweek. So we have the equivalent scenario still with if Liverpool make the FA Cup final and if Villa make the Europa League final, that would have to be forced into 36. But actually any of the fixtures could move. Well, not any of them. Any of them that still have an FA Cup team in them could move to 36. But we're expecting that that's fairly unlikely. They left it free last year. And the calendar this year looks very similar to last year in terms of the spacings and the gaps and which weeks clash. So 37 is a bit less important. So 34 is our big one that we have a lot of uncertainty on. And as we say, we have a fully free midweek in Game Week 33 before it, which in previous seasons, they pretty much all, they put doubles in that one. But we saw last year that actually they weren't forced to move some of these games into a free midweek. They put them in like a European midweek. The Newcastle Crystal Palace last year was the League Cup final postponement from Newcastle making it, and they put it on a Champions League midweek because neither team were in any European competition. So that's why we have the equivalent ones as well. They also moved Forest Brentford from 34 to the midweek in 34 and clash with the, I think they put it on the Thursday, the same as the Europa League and Conference League, which was actually a little confusing because it was the Thursday of Game Week 34, then 35 started on the Friday. So the Game Week 34 was Saturday, Sunday, and then Thursday, I think Game Week 35 was the next day. So you had back-to-back games in different game weeks. But yes, so the teams that could make that, so Bournemouth Leeds is a fixture that has no European teams if Leeds make it, and West Ham Everton, also neither team is in Europe. So if we know that Leeds or West Ham will make that semi-final, causing one of those two games to be postponed, but because there's the free midweek in 34, which is not true for likely not true for like an Arsenal Newcastle if both of them are still in the Champions League. That would have to be forced into 33. So
correct. So
yeah, we've got that's the sort of overview to work out where they're going to go. But I'll quickly go to the clashes. So this is the Game Week 34 ones.
So just to recap, our base case assumption is that, I mean, looking at the probabilities first, that if it is Leeds or West Ham that go through, that will stay in 34. The others, base case, they move to 33. So that's what we're working towards.
That's the assumption, yeah.
I think the one other point I wanted to make on the previous one, Jonny, if you don't mind, is to also say that people who are holding a second chip, so the idea is that, of course, there is one double game week that is expected in 33, but actually, the way the draw has panned out, there is now near certainty that there is going to be another double game week as well. And that's because of the Liverpool-Man City fixture. And
Yes.
why Liverpool-Man City fixture is important is because they both, the tie that they have is with Crystal Palace. So Man City's Carabao Cup game was Carabao Cup clashes with Crystal Palace. Liverpool's Game Week 34 game is also Crystal Palace. So let's assume first that Liverpool win. If Liverpool do win, then their fixture against Crystal Palace will need to be brought to Game Week 33. And then this dangling fixture with Man City and Crystal Palace, obviously Crystal Palace can't play 3 times, there will go into 36. So therefore, there will be another double.
Yes.
If you look at the opposite scenario, if Man City end up winning, then now they've created 2 blanks because the blank is caused by the Carabao Cup final, and they've caused a blank in Game Week 34 because of the semi-final. So again, that will cause 2 blanks. But there are 2 exceptions or 2 small tail scenarios in which this doesn't happen. That is, if that game is put into Game Week 31, and for that to happen, they both need to be out of Europe, or it could stay in 34. For that to happen, they also need to be out of Europe.
Yeah, so we looked at last time about the chance of Man City Palace staying in Game Week 31, but being after the international break. Because if City lost to Newcastle, then we also had that FA Cup quarter-final free, because City and Palace would both be out. So that seemed the more likely place to put it into 31. But if Man City lose to Real Madrid and Crystal Palace lose to Larnaca in the Conference League, that would mean that this quarter-final midweek, leg 1, would be free. And that's where they could put it. The chance of that happening, they're both quite heavy favourites, is probably about 3 or 4%. And even if that happens, they might not put it into 31. They could wait. They could, because there is space to put it in 36. So they don't have to bring it forward. But so the conditions are very unlikely because they have to both go out.
So we're saying like 95, 97% there's going to be 2 doubles.
Yeah,
this
so
season. That's where we
think that either Palace will have 2 doubles or City will have 2 doubles because Palace play Liverpool and City play Burnley, and one of those is going to have to move, and because City Palace are playing each other. So Palace have an impact even though they're not in the cup. They're not in either cup.
Yeah.
But it's just the way that the combos have worked.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
now we can go.
If we keep assuming teams staying in Europe, then that's going to go into 36. But it could go into 35 if that one's free. There's other ways. But yeah, the chance of an other double other than 33. So triple captain holders, you're looking pretty happy. because that was the risk
Well,
when we played
it
early.
opens
But
other strategies as well, right?
But
It
yes,
opens
as it also
strategies
does, yeah.
that you don't have to bench boost in 33 now. If you don't like that double as much, you could bench boost in another double, which is coming up if you can plan for that.
Yeah,
So
I was
when
looking.
I'll come to chip ideas, that's
Yes.
something we can talk about.
I tested a few out, and actually, it looks like there are the common one people have been looking at is still very strong. It's not really made it worse, but I think the alternatives do run it quite close, and there's lots of alternatives. But we'll quickly run through, the chances of each team causing this clash. So there's 4 categories to these Game Week 34 fixtures. So we've got the ones at the bottom: Fulham Villa, Man United Brentford, Sunderland Forest, and Wolves Tottenham are all set in 34. All 8 teams are out of the FA Cup. Won't move unless there's a weather postponement or something. Those 4 games will happen in Game Week 34 at the weekend. We've then got the 2 games that are paired together. So West Ham, Everton, and Bournemouth Leeds are paired together as one of those will be a clash, depending on whether West Ham or Leeds go through. And we think it's more likely to go into 34 than 33. It could still go into 33. It's not really ruled out. West Ham, Everton especially, actually looks like it might be blocked from 33 because West Ham Palace has been picked for the Monday night fixture in Game Week 33. So that would actually block it unless it moves. It does also cause some complications with, like, if Liverpool Palace wants to go there. But in all likelihood, if they needed to force that in, it fits. You go West Ham Palace on the Monday, Liverpool Palace on the Thursday, and then you play Liverpool's cup game on the Sunday, and then their European fixture on the Wednesday. So it's a bit tight, but it does fit. But West Ham Everton, they wouldn't bring that into 33 to then move a Premier League game that's been picked on the Monday. They'd just put it into 34 as more likely. So that one's actually even more likely than Bournemouth Leeds to stay in 34. And then we've got the third category is the teams that are paired together playing each other that are still in Europe. So we've got Burnley, Man City, and Liverpool Palace. So we know one of those 2 will happen. Again, they're paired. So we've got about 60-40 from our simulations. City are at home. So they're probably the slight favourites. And if those teams keep progressing in Europe, they probably only need to make the quarterfinals. If I show the calendar quickly, if they make the quarterfinals that are either side of Game Week 32, then they can't really wait to see if they're in the semis to then see if 34 and 35 are free, because it's right before game. You give them a week's notice. So even if they don't make the semis, they're going to have to bring it forward to 33 to avoid a potential clash. So those ones, sorry, that's the draw. Those are the 2 where we know one or the other will happen. We'll have a guaranteed Premier League clash from Burnley City or Liverpool Palace with a very high likelihood. I think so. City are about 72% to go through against Real Madrid per the Pinnacle odds. Liverpool are 85% against Galatasaray. Palace are 88% as well, because Palace would have to go out too. They're highly likely. So there's only about a 2% chance that 30, neither team, Liverpool Palace, makes the quarterfinals of Europe. And there's about a 25-30% chance that City don't do it. So we can assume, for most intents and purposes, that one of those teams will have to go to 33, of course, the double, rather than being, okay, it goes to 34 because it's free. And then the fourth category is we've got the Brighton-Chelsea and the Arsenal-Newcastle games. So that's got teams in Europe, but they're playing a non-Premier League team in the FA Cup quarterfinal. So they're both heavy favourites, but we will or we won't have clash, rather than it's a clash or another clash. If that makes sense.
Right.
So Chelsea, we get Brighton Chelsea or we don't, rather than we get Brighton Chelsea or we get another fixture. Same with Arsenal Newcastle. So because they're both heavy favourites, they're both sort of 90% likely to go through. We think they'll go through. Brighton Chelsea are like underdogs against PSG. That's their slight one. I think they're being priced at about 44% to go through. So that would be what would open up 34 and 35 for it to go in. But it actually, I think it's the only game I'll credit Tala. I'll shout out Tala Nadim. Ben Krellin, obviously good info as well. James Planet FPL will do some stuff on that as well. But that fixture actually fits on the Tuesday in 33, and I think it would be Sky would want it as a unique slot. So even if Chelsea lost to PSG, we think it's got pressure to come to 33 in the same way that we think West Ham Everton would have pressure to go to 34 because of the TV picks. And Arsenal
Not
Newcastle.
Arsenal Newcastle Wednesday, you think?
Yeah, so that would probably that fits as well. But also Arsenal are heavy favourites against Leverkusen. So that's only about 8% likely to have Arsenal and Newcastle both out in this round. Newcastle play Barcelona, so they're underdogs. But that one's got both teams in Europe, and so it's much less likely to have 34 or 35 available.
Yep.
So that's got loads of pressure to come to 33, whereas Chelsea's got a bit less European pressure, but a little bit more TV pressure. So those are the ones that we think would move. And all in all, what that gives us is fairly likely 3 doubles. Actually, I'll go with the permutations first here. So 4 clashes is the likeliest because we've got 2 guaranteed from City, Liverpool, and West Ham, Leeds, and then we've got 2 heavy favourites in Arsenal and Chelsea.
And to be clear, these are clashes, not blanks yet,
yes,
right?
Yeah. So the ones here clashes, but we're probably only going to get 3 blanks because we've got Arsenal win and still in Europe moves to 33, Chelsea win and still in Europe or TV reasons moves to 33, City or Liverpool, that one moves to 33, and then West Ham Everton or Bournemouth Leeds stays in 34. So that's the 4th clash that probably stays. So there's a few scenarios. I mean, there are edge cases where we get all 4 of them through and they put Bournemouth Leeds in 34, and we do get 4 doubles and 4 blanks. There's also cases the other way where a Port Vale or a Southampton win and we only have 3 clashes. And we also could have 3 clashes and only 2 of them go into Gameweek 33. You could even have Southampton and Port Vale winning, which would give 2 clashes, one of which probably stays in 34. So that's like about 1% chance. They're both very heavy underdogs. But there's still a chance of 1 double. There's even a tiny, tiny, tiny chance of no doubles if they, move Burnley City back into 34 because City are out of the Champions League.
And then Liverpool are out and it stays in 34.
Yeah, so the 2 clashes in 34 move into 34 and then we got nothing. But these are like tiny, tiny chances just to cover all bases.
And by the way, even like we're potting before the European games, these odds will change even by Thursday, right? So this is the beauty of it, that this is going to be evolving. Like if Man City, Liverpool both have smashing first legs, then the chances of them moving their fixture is even higher. But,
because the chance of 34 or 35 being free is greatly diminished. Even if it is free, we think they probably still move. So we'll see. But we do now have, I've shown this graphic a couple of times, and usually the top permutation's about 3 or 4%. We do now have 4 permutations of clashes that take up the majority of the sample space. So we've got essentially, it's you assume Chelsea and Arsenal win as heavy favourites, and then it's whatever 2 pairings of City, Liverpool, and West Ham Leeds gives you 4 permutations of those clashes. So Burnley City and West Ham Everton, Burnley City and Bournemouth Leeds, West Ham Everton and Liverpool Palace, or Bournemouth Leeds and Liverpool Palace gives you your 4. And then
I can even narrow down to 2.
What 2?
I mean, I would narrow it down even to 2 because the West Ham, Everton, or Bournemouth Leeds doesn't impact base case. Doesn't impact your double game week planning in a sense that actually doesn't matter which of those wins. So if you could even combine the first 2 rows and say, actually, 51% chance we're going to see the double game week involving those guys. And then there's a 33% chance that there's a double game week involving Liverpool instead of Man City. And of course, still... And the others are other scenarios. So, I mean, if you were to only look at it as doubles and blanks.
I think it's for you. You've immediately gone to simplify it. And I was going to add in 2 more scenarios, which was the, for the ones where West Ham Everton, I think you could assume goes into 34 probably. But Bournemouth Leeds, like you could add, a 50-50 chance it goes in 33 or 34. So actually those 2, you go Brighton, Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Burnley City or Liverpool Palace, just whenever they blank, put them into 33. And then Bournemouth Leeds, you go 33 or 34. And I guess you could do the same with West Ham and Everton. So I was going to go, you go 8 permutations to like cover a lot, but you've gone down to 2, which I think is reasonable.
I'm just simplifying it as, I mean, this all still means that for people who are obviously looking for, what does it mean for chip strategy and stuff, it just means that there's still 50-50 paths on simply just Man City or Liverpool. And there's many other 50-50s on, do they move the Bournemouth Leeds game or not? Is there an upset? I mean, those are smaller chances. Those are not 50-50. But all of that tells me that you don't need to click any buttons even when the international break starts until they are played out, right?
Yeah.
That was the takeaway for me.
Yeah, and I think also like the big split on this City Liverpool one is a bigger split because it's the really impactful players. So our 2 premium players in FPL are Mo Salah and Haaland. Like I know, like Palmer and Saka and these guys are like they're expensive, but there's another step up to. I know neither of them have been playing like premium, some people would say, but structurally, your team tends to have Salah or Haaland in it. You don't really have both. So pivoting from one structure to the other, depending on which one goes through, is going to be quite important. Whereas, let's say, even if we assume West Ham, Everton, or Bournemouth Leeds, whichever one goes through, does double in 33, then most of their players are guys you either had on your bench anyway, or they're the ones that you'll start to pick up on a wildcard 32 or with your transfers in 32 once you know. Or maybe it's like you've got 2 guys on your bench and you're going to sell one of them and one of them plays for Everton and one of them plays for Brentford. Then okay, like if I was 50-50, then that helps me decide between those 2. So they're much less impactful as fantasy picks on top of that. Whereas, our big hitting guys, we think Arsenal, most people will have a lot of Arsenal and still is worth you carrying them through 31 if you can, because this double 33 looks pretty likely. City's a bit different. Like, do you want to hop off Haaland and maybe have to get him back, or do you want to, hop off, not have him for 31 in the blank, and then wildcard him back in? So I think the strategy is still mostly aiming at, okay, I've got a core, 2 to 6 permutations I'm looking at. But structurally, it's mostly just, can I get to Haaland or Salah? What do I want to do there? How do I hold my Arsenal players? Maybe, how do I hold my Palace players? If you've got those, they've had a nice fixture run. Most people don't have much Chelsea because they've probably hopped off with the tougher fixtures. I don't think many people have got Brighton. So those are guys you'd pick up in 32 if you wanted to. Although, as you said before, or pre-pod, that's not the nicest fixture for some of those guys. So, I don't think there's like a huge amount of, I need to go this way, I need to go that way, or we've really swung on where we go. I think the info in between 31 and 32 is still big because we get this City Liverpool one. In the same way, this time we were waiting for City Newcastle. We've still got this one pivotal fixture and a few bits on the side where we go, okay, this game probably stays in 34 and these guys are pretty heavy favourites and would move to 33. So you can make those assumptions and streamline it down and pick a few out.
I guess one other point to make in terms of where fixtures move, assuming Man City do win, they will have a Burnley fixture to move and they'll have a Crystal Palace fixture to move.
Yes.
And I think one thing to clarify, and apologies if I missed it, is we think the Burnley fixture is more likely to move to 33 in the scenario in which Man City have won. So Man City will have that Burnley double in 33, and the Crystal Palace game, even though it was earlier, or it blanked earlier, it moves to 36 because of this Monday fixture for Crystal Palace, right?
Yeah. So that's why it would potentially block it out, because they leave West Ham Palace on the Monday. They can put Burnley City on the Wednesday, and it's just a little bit easier for the TV picks. It does matter for like triple captaincy, bench boost, like who's in the fixtures. We're normally looking at which teams are going to double, but also who are they playing in those doubles. So actually, I'll swap to this view just to show some of these permutations. So, City in 33. If Burnley City moves there, City will play Burnley away, and it's Arsenal at home is their other fixture. So that's much less appetizing as a captaincy for Haaland, for triple captain, than in Gameweek 36. They'd have Palace at home and Brentford at home. The issue being that it's right at the end of the season. Are the top players going to get rested in both those games? But fixtures wise, that comes out. Actually, I can show the projections quickly.
Well, the other one would have been Burnley away and
12. Yeah. 36 does look nicer for a triple captaincy.
two home games.
But yeah, 2 home games, not playing Arsenal. Looks a little bit nicer. But then, Arsenal would play Newcastle and they would also play City away. So I think those are just, Arsenal they're not the fixtures you want, but they're doubling, they're fine.
My issue is more if you look at 32.
Yes.
And if you look at the popular teams that, let's say people are wildcarding in 32, that's going to be still the meta strategy, right? It's going to be the one most people follow.
Mm-hmm.
So let's assume the case where Chelsea have won, Arsenal have won, Man City have won. The favourites all win.
Yeah.
And those are the only doubling teams. Well, their opponents will also double, I suppose.
Sure.
So
those are the 3 doubles, yeah.
Chelsea play Man City in Game Week 32. Do you want to get 6 players in that fixture? I don't know. I don't know if how many you want from that fixture. Of course, you'll triple up from Arsenal, who play Bournemouth, but really Arsenal triple up is not an edge. Everybody, non-wildcard, all wildcard will have...
We've all got triple Arsenal, yeah.
So I think Brighton is the only one where you can say, oh, wildcard 32, because they have Burnley, then they have a double, works. But apart from that, Newcastle away to Crystal Palace, that's not great either. And who are you selling on wildcard 32? In this scenario, you're selling your Liverpool, who are home to Fulham. You're selling your Man United, because you're not carrying Bruno through the double when he's not doubling. You're selling him home to Leeds. You're selling Brentford home to Everton, because they're not doubling either.
Yeah.
So this is where the Game Week 32 wildcard becomes a little bit like, I'm going to leave points on the table just to bench boost in 33.
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot stronger if, so for example, Man United, Brentford, if Brentford had won today, beating West Ham, it probably would have been another one that does fit into 34, like we said with the other ones. But if that had come into 33, then you've got your Man United, you've got your Brentford, you can, keep them, load up on extra them, good game in 32, double in 33, free hit in 34, and then Brentford play West Ham in 35. They've got some quite nice fixtures. I guess a bit City there, and Liverpool. But you can start to sell them on. You've got your transfers saved. The 32-33 transition actually looks a lot nicer. But yes, we don't have that. I guess if West Ham Everton moved in here, you've got West Ham against Wolves and Everton against Brentford. That's not.
It does make the bench boost better, of course.
That's maybe a little bit nicer, and those are the cheaper players. But yeah, what if Liverpool Palace came in instead of Burnley City?
So that's the other thing. So if Liverpool Palace came in, now it becomes interesting where you can load up on Liverpool. But hey, a lot of teams are loaded up on Liverpool already. Like I could sell Haaland for Salah in this game week or next game week, and I could have a Liverpool triple up of Salah, Van Dijk, and Ekitike. So then it becomes a counter argument on what are you wildcarding for.
I've got them already. Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm. So this is where I'm struggling to see. I'm not struggling. I understand wildcard 32 makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
But I'm saying these other strategies where you can just either delay your wildcard if Liverpool win, or you free hit in 33 if Man City win. So if you go back to Man City coming into 33, which is the likely scenario, right? So this is what I'm talking about. You go into 32 with your team full of Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, and Brentford, all lovely fixtures. Then you get into 33, you get whichever doublers you want. And I like this double for loading up on Haaland, Palmer, and Saka, for example, which people on Bench Boost will struggle, right? Those are premium picks that are hard to get, but you can get them on a free hit because you don't need a bench. And ultimately, how much of other teams do you really want? Were you just forcing them in because of the Bench Boost? Like, do you want Newcastle? Sure, you can have one, but you don't want more than one away to Arsenal and home to Bournemouth. Maybe just Malik Chow or something like that. How much Brighton do you want home to Chelsea and away to Spurs? Actually, Brighton is fine. But Brighton is a different problem. It's difficult to predict their minutes for their attackers.
Yeah.
So who do you actually get from Brighton apart from Van Heck and Verbruggen?
Bart Verbruggen, the man.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Danny Welbeck, maybe.
Does he start
Pascal
both games
Gross
in a double? Because remember, 32, the double 33... will happen within 10 days, right? By definition. So it's going to be hard to predict those minutes for the attackers for Brentford. But I'm not finished with the free hit 33 propaganda.
Carry on.
Come to game week 34. Let's assume that you were on that popular strategy and you're now free hitting in 34. Which teams are you targeting again? Liverpool, home to Crystal Palace. Man United, home to Brentford. Hey, I already have those teams right now. So, and Bournemouth, by the way, a lot of people have Tavernier, a lot of people have the indestructible James Hill. And so you have a lot of these players. Fulham, people have Anderson, if he's still fit. People have Wilson, if he's still all right. So when people will free hit in game week 34...
some nice fixtures. People are holding on to a Strauch or a Rodon or a whoever.
So who will you free hit if you are actually free hitting? If you didn't force a bench boost in 33, who are you free hitting in 34 will be the same players actually that you own now, that you were selling in 32, who had good fixtures anyway. So my mind quickly went to, if Man City win, then hey, we could free hit in 33. That could be a viable alternative strategy. I'm not saying it's better. It's not my chip is better than your chip. It's just that it's an alternative strategy for people who want to go a little different and hope to get lucky. You can look at free hit in 33. You can look at wildcard in 35 and bench boost in 36. Something like that, because we've talked about that 36 will be a double. So you could load up on those other doublers. Man City picture could have changed by then. It's maybe somebody's injured or, you need Donnarumma because the league is gone. So you need to get really nailed guys.
I've been bitten before with Edison as the City player.
Donnarumma.
I'm always wary. But yeah, Mateus Nunes has been playing loads of
that
games.
That kind of thing.
Those kind of guys.
Get
Semenyo,
triple Crystal Palace. Who didn't have a double before, but you can have triple Crystal Palace now. And then you bench boost around that. You don't have any Liverpool or Chelsea because they play each other in 36. So you set up your bench boost again with Brighton. So Verbruggen will still be on your bench boost regardless of whether you bench boost in 33 or 36. But he's home to Wolves. So that's not so bad if that was your single game week bench booster versus that double game weeker. Of course, double game weeker will have more expected points. But my point was you're losing expected points in 32 to get the higher expected points in 33 through the bench boost.
Yeah, I actually I did solve a lot of these different strategies. Solve. I ran a solve through the projected points.
What's the answer?
So, they were all very similar, but I just wanted to show you something like what a bench boost 36 might look like as an example. So this was with that top solution of so Burnley City moves into 33, Arsenal Newcastle moves to 33, Brighton Chelsea moves to 33. And Man City Palace moves to 36. So these are the doublers. So your bench boost itself is not really double game week players because there's only 2 double game weeks. Whereas if you wildcard 32, bench boost 33, you are able to put some double game weekers on that bench boost. But you also have some fairly nice fixtures for these guys who would be your bench. So you could get Raya and have Henderson. So Henderson's your bench keeper normally, but then Raya becomes your bench keeper away at West Ham. For this week, because Palace have 2 games. You've got Brighton are playing Wolves. I've got some quite nice fixtures to run the season, and Leeds have got some good fixtures to run in, and they're away to Spurs, which at the minute is, that's quite a juicy game for the relegation battle, but Spurs aren't as tough a fixture anymore. These guys are projecting quite well. So the other thing is that actually the issue with doing it early is some people have got quite nice benches this week. You could bench boost 30 and sort of gamble on it and have a bench that looks quite similar to this. The issue is that if suddenly bench boost 33 looks like the way you need to go, you've sort of gambled early. But if you wanted to go different and sort of bet on a certain scenario and accept that if the scenario doesn't happen, it goes wrong, I think this week's bench boost. So this was something.
So to set up this bench boost, Jonny, for 36, when did you wildcard?
This was a wildcard 35. This was a specific setup. Wildcard 35, bench boost 36.
Excellent. So that's the one I talked about, which is free hit 33, wildcard 35, bench boost 36. Right.
Yeah.
This works obviously not as well for people who have got a triple captain left, because you've used bench boost and free hit on the doubles.
On Saka is what I put it on against Burnley, which is kind of okay. So it's not actually too bad. So actually, in terms of like the raw score of the projected points, it could accumulate in a sort of ideal conditions of stuff's not going wrong, was fairly close to playing bench boost 33, triple captain 36. because you can gain this stuff on 33 with a free hit and be able to play 32, 34 a bit better around it. So your chip weeks aren't quite as good, but your sort of overall, it does score a bit lower. It's not ideal, but things go wrong. You're betting on certain teams. I'd say it's all within the sort of regions of error of like, this is a good strategy. It's not the one that scores the best on some test that I've run, but it's not like it came
How
out
much
so
expected
poorly.
points do you lose in this one? Do you
5
know?
to 10, if that. But like, that's like assuming ideal conditions. So there's other things you need to test in terms of like, what happens if it goes wrong? Where are my pinch points with my transfers and stuff that I haven't really dug into yet?
And this is probably lower if you remove triple captaincy out of the equation, right?
Yes,
For somebody like
so
me,
the gap was 5 to 10 with the triple captain, and you're losing, 6 on the captaincy, 5 maybe.
Yeah. So
the
that's
gap would
where
be
I
smaller.
landed.
Yeah. But I tested a few out. So I think like the bench boost, if you go wildcard bench boost, this is a bench boost 33. Sorry, I'll just read it out. I realize we do have audio listeners. So yeah, Raya, Van Heck, Calvert-Lewin, Rodon was the bench. All with nice fixtures. But yeah, wildcard 32, bench boost 33 with the 3 doubles that we said. So Burnley, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle, and Brighton, Chelsea. You get 4 doublers on the bench. So the bench boost is...
I forgot about him.
It is double Burnley. As a suggestion, I'm sure there's ways around this. You might not want Anthony from Burnley. You could probably go for someone else, but this is just an example one. But yeah, triple Arsenal, triple City, triple Chelsea, triple Brighton. You've only got Malik Chow, actually. So like, in terms of your free hit, 33 going against Newcastle, like there's probably only 1 or 2. I'm not sure if everyone will go for Pascal Gross and Danny Welbeck. They might prefer an Anthony Gordon or something like that. But yeah, so this is... The bench is scoring very highly. We've got like 5s, 6s, and 7s rather than 4s. But yeah, as you say, wildcard 32 actually scores fewer points than Game Week 32.
So go back on this one. On this team, but in Game Week 32.
Yes. Here we are.
So
you've got double Chelsea against City. It's 59 points on these current projections, whereas the free hit 33 wildcard one is 61.2, so it's 2 points worse. So it's not too bad. You've got your triple Brighton against Burnley, which looks quite nice. You do have Bruno Fernandes, which is then sold for Semenyo. So you start with him for this nice fixture, then move him on. I do have 3 transfers when I was solving this, so some people don't have as many saves.
This is the other thing. The gap reduces even more if you come with like 1 free transfer, and you don't have the luxury to do Bruno to Semenyo. But is probably what this is doing.
What I'd have here is I've got that triple Liverpool. So I mean, I don't have Haaland here. I've got Salah, but yeah, I've got Bowen against Wolves, which is very nice. This is my team. I've solved it, but this is scoring better than that wild card in that week. And actually, in game week 34, it's like about a point or just under a point below the wild card. So this would be free hit 33, wild card 35. So I've bought Vicario in advance. I'm not sure about that one, but I think it's because in 31 he's got Forest at home and then he's got Wolves away. So he's my like when Raya blanks, pick someone else. I probably won't want Vicario.
Leno's a good one for that as well.
Yeah. But I I've got my triple Liverpool here. I have Bruno and I pick up Mbomo. I've got Calvert-Lewin. I've got Ballard. Whereas the free hit itself is not that different. It's at the same midfield even. Slightly different. It's swapping Szoboszlai out for Ndiaye, of course, on the free hit. But yeah, they're very similar. So actually, free hit 33 and your team running to 34 versus free hit 34 is fairly similar on the points. So actually, the bench boost in 33 is very juicy. But the starting 11 itself, like you look at all these doublers, if I go free hit 33 as an example, you're actually getting slightly better starting 11. Whereas the benches, I don't know, I've got Pesci and Obi here. But yeah, it lets you get like Saka and Rice and Palmer as well. And these guys that you wouldn't have on this bench boost because you have to drop down to Enzo. It does have Saka as well. But you can...
I just don't... This like running the rest of the season with fraudulent Brighton players and even more fraudulent Chelsea players. I'm just not getting the right feeling. But I'm going to obviously wait and
Yeah.
see the results and then make a call. But I'm just not as enamored. Like, of course, expected points are expected points, but trusting João Pedro, Enzo's minutes when there's Europe going. I mean, Enzo's minutes are fine, to be honest. But Chelsea in general, Brighton has always, whenever I've gone for Brighton, either their player drops out, stops scoring, or Hurstler lies about them.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is probably my
The
personal bias on this stuff.
I was going to say the other one to throw in, presumably double game week 33, you're going to play a chip of some kind.
Yes.
Probably not going to wildcard. Maybe. I've not actually looked at wildcard 33. That seems a bit strange.
When
But
so I was thinking of
we've looked
wildcard
at bench
33.
boost. We've looked at free hit. Some people have got triple captain. And
Yeah.
actually, if you want a triple captain that isn't Haaland, because he's going to be the popular captain and triple captain for those who've saved it, you could triple captain 33, not need to get these weird bench players. So you still wildcard 32 and have a slightly better team in 32 that actually swaps them out. Triple captain in 33. Haaland is the top one, but you can triple captain Saka here. You can triple captain Palmer. This game week is probably the best non-Haaland double game week left for Arsenal or Chelsea. You could even go Semenyo here. Then you do your free hit in 34, as you say, and then you actually play through to a bench boost in 36, having wildcarded earlier. Or potentially you play through to triple captain 33, wildcard in 35, having free hit, and then set this up with the wildcard. So you can triple captain 33 as well, if you wanted to like try and find something different with your triple captaincy chip. Which then lets you do the other combos of, I think 33 and 34 are going to have chips in both of them, because the 33 to 34 transition is going to be too hard. If we assume 3 fixtures are moving from 34 to 33, then, you know, the ones who double are the inverse of the ones who blank. You're going to have to free hit or wildcard one of them, presumably, whichever one you've saved, or if you have both, you can decide. 33's got some big doubles in it, so you're going to bench boost, you're going to triple captain, or the free hit. And then 36 is the other double to play whatever you've got left. But I think looking at basically every combo of that I looked at, they all tend to come out kind of, I think like triple captain 30, though I'd forgotten. There was a few that like the combo don't quite work. But I think actually any permutation of those will suit some teams and score well enough. They're all quite close because there's no like monster double game week and like players you have to have and players you can't avoid and this, that, you know, that in previous seasons we've seen like, okay, if you're not bench boosting one of these 2 weeks, like you're too far behind. It's not gonna work. Like you're giving up so many points to free hit in the double instead of bench boosting or triple captaining. But I think actually all these permutations do work. So if you found a strategy that you like that fits, like, oh, I've got some logical reason, like if City double there, I don't want the City, I can go against them, I can eat my Liverpool and move over that way. You've got a logical reason why it looks good for your team. It's probably going to be a good strategy. Which sounds, right. I don't know if that's good advice to be like. I think basically if you've got an alternate strategy and you've got a good reason to do it, I think you can be confident that you're not derailing your season by doing something crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Or I would put it another way as well, that if you've got a couple of ideas, don't get influenced by the crowd and hold off. Like in my case, I am tempted. And so I'm simply just going to make my move so that I don't commit to a particular path. And even if I do, I can wildcard. So I can maybe make my moves thinking, okay, I will free hit in 33. If it doesn't work out, you can always wildcard in 32, right? And that erases any moves that you've done in the past anyway. So that's thing number one. And thing number two is just chill out. Like when Game Week 31 deadline finishes, you don't need to be putting out wildcard drafts yet, because the more you'll do, the more FOMO you'll get. Just wait until the quarterfinals are finished and then actually then decide.
Yeah. I think the only one that's got chips like this week or next week, before the info, would be something like a free hit 31 or a bench boost like early. Like if you've got a good bench now and you're pretty set on, I'm going to try and free hit or triple captain in this 33, then playing that now. I think those are ones that have more potential to be like, oh, I've committed early and gone a bit wrong because you're using a chip to do it. But I do think they're like potentially viable. Like I don't think I'm going to play it. I'm going to test it out a little bit. But I have a bench boostable bench this week with a transfer or two. And if you're still loaded on Palace, as well as your Arsenal and you're on Haaland, then if you're like, oh, I don't have that many transfers and I've got loads of blank game week 31 guys, then you could free hit. I wouldn't aim at that free hit. I think that also the free hit itself, I bring up, looks a bit weird. Like that's not really players. You got triple Fulham, Watkins, Calvert-Lewin, like just no Haaland feels a bit odd. I don't really see what you attack with it, but it would be a way to keep Palace, City, Arsenal players if you've got like 9 of them somehow. Might be a way to.
You see, but because of the blank, because City, Arsenal are now blanking in 31 and very likely to blank in 34 as well. Mm-hmm. Which is why either you dead end wildcard free hit in the other double, or you free hit in the middle, get rid of their players, and then wildcard them all back in.
Yep.
So those are the two that are fitting at the moment. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you can think about all of these.
You could free hit them out in 31, hold them for 33, and then wildcard them out in 34. I think wildcard 34 is one that, well, for those of us without a free hit, is probably how I'm going to have to play it. But I think there's you can
wildcard 34 with Man City on your bench or something like that.
Yes. So actually, I think I had a wildcard one. So this would be free hit 30. So you've used your bench boost in 33, and you're wildcarding in 34 with triple captain left to play, or nothing. You can triple captain in 30. It's not going to change your strategy. You're going to have Haaland, but yeah, it's got Raya, Haaland, Semenyo, Gabriel on the bench in 31. Then it does have Palace. I've got triple Palace against Liverpool. It's not ideal. Man United playing, and then that means I've got like triple Palace, triple City for 33. So I do lose that quite a bit.
You could also look at free hit 33 and bench boost 36 and just play through.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you don't have a free hit.
Well, I can't do that. Yeah. One could. Or I guess wildcard 35 might be one I could look at if I wanted to. Wildcard 35 bench boost 36, triple captain 33. So I have my big stack of transfers and try and get through to 33 with loads of them, and then triple captain. So I don't need to build the bench out with doublers. I just need the 11 of doublers. I then sell them to get a reasonable. I've got my bench players to then sell them, get a reasonable team out in 34, and then wildcard into a team that can bench boost in 36 is another way I could look at it. But I think that would probably surprise. That would depend on whether Man City or Liverpool win. Because exactly. if Liverpool win, then they're gonna double. So I can't like bench a Virgil and a Oslai easily. They'd have to double, and then I'd have to sell them.
But if Liverpool do win, it makes your strategy to wildcard 34 easier.
I think so. Yeah. Well, I think
because City have a game in 34 and they have a double in 36. And
yes, true. Yeah. And I don't have to build as much of a. I can buy bench boost in 33 is easier to build because I don't have to swap from Salah back to Haaland. I sold Haaland, bought Salah.
Yes,
I didn't cover that.
I mean,
did that one
even on free hit 33, people who are on free hit 33, you should be, or if you're tempted by free hit 33, you should be thinking about Haaland to Salah as well. Yeah. Because that's what makes it work very well, where you have Salah for 31, for 32, for 34, and then you have Haaland for 33 double, and then you wildcard him in for the 35 and beyond. So it just works as a pair.
Yes. So I think I'm supporting Liverpool against City, basically, because it makes it a bit easier for me. What I did want as well as I wanted Brentford out, because Man United Brentford staying in 34 makes it a lot easier as well. I suppose they were probably going to stay there anyway, but that made the 33 to 34 transition very tricky with Bruno and some of the Brentford guys with good fixtures. So, well done, West Ham. Very happy they won. And small chance of a Jared Bowen double game week. Be very nice as a long time hold. He's my first bench player as an 8 million forward who gets DEFCONs.
It's incredible. He's getting DEFCONs and penalties. He's basically the Indai of forwards.
I called him the Elliot Anderson of forwards at one point. I know
He's
Elliot
better than
doesn't take
Elliot
pens.
Anderson.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he just gets DEFCONs and the odd assist.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, he got some goals today. Yes. Anything else we need to cover? Or are we going to go through our own teams, through the strategies?
No, I think let's just cover our teams quickly on
Yeah.
what we're doing. Obviously, you'll be saving. But
Yes.
while you're loading it up, hopefully this was helpful for people. Put in the comments if there's any chip strategies we've missed out, or if you have questions. Obviously, there's the Solio Discord where you can get involved, and we'd be happy to help. How to plan for this, but generally the advice is don't do your stochastic optimization yet. Wait till the international break, and then you can.
Well, you can do it now, but it'll tell you to roll because we don't know what's going to happen until 31, 32 even. Yes, and I will shout out some of the info. I discussed quite a lot with Tala and Ben on the so Tala and Nadeem. I'll put his link in the description as well. On Twitter is another good guy to follow. Ben Krellin, most people know, but give him a shout out. James Planet FPL will be doing, I'm sure, a chip strategy pod at some point. He does some very good info. We talk a lot about fixtures in our analytics Discord server as well, the one that Sir Top runs. So Tom Danes and Ted Lasso Regen is his name, Alistair. He's been on the Optimized pod before. Both very good for info in there. So if you want to get involved in fixture chat, then we do have a fixture there. So I'll give them a shout out for. I've reported some of that info as well as doing our own simulations. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful. Here's my team. I do have 3 transfers. I am planning to roll. Surprise, surprise. So I've got.
Well,
yeah.
Go on.
Well,
read your team.
I've got Raya. I've got Munoz, who was pictured in training today, but not today.
It was an old picture.
An old picture. He was pictured sometime.
Yeah.
He's hurt his shoulder, so we'll have to see whether he's okay. I suppose I've got Calvert-Lewin on my bench. Might be okay. Got Virgil, got Gabriel, got Lacroix, got Bruno, Fernandes, Schwozlai, Salah has appeared. Elliot Anderson, Jared Bowen, and Thiago on the bench of Dubravka, Calvert-Lewin, Joachim Anderson, and Ndiaye. So I've got my strong bench that should put me through. Ideally, I can bench Calvert-Lewin and play the 2 Palace defenders and kind of load up on betting on Palace against Leeds. But if Munoz isn't fit, I can just bench him a week rather than deciding where to sell him. He probably is going to be someone I need to sell. I'm going to have to make a transfer in 31. So if I go to 31, I've actually got 8 attackers. I can bench one, so I can afford, well, not want an injury. I can afford an injury.
Disgusting.
But I've only got 2 defenders. Dubravka's not great, but I'll play him. But yeah, because I've got Gabriel, Munoz, and Lacroix, I'm going to have to sell one of them to field an 11. So if Munoz is out, probably would be Malik Chow, I think, because he's going to have the double in 33 most likely with Arsenal. But also they're playing Sunderland in 31, so he's got quite good fixtures. So that's my one transfer that I'm going to use before 32, hopefully. But ideally, I'd like to wait. Also get a feel for the European fixtures, or maybe, someone gets injured. There's talk that Joachim Anderson's been dropped. I don't buy it, but
I don't buy it.
He was ill, then he missed a game, then he might as well play in the FA Cup because he missed the game. But he played.
And then he made a mistake for the goal.
He did. Very foolish.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's not. But anyway, he's fine.
I doubt it.
But yeah, I swapped Haaland to Salah last week because we weren't sure Haaland was going to play. We weren't sure if Rice was going to play. And they did both play.
Played 90 minutes.
They both played 90 minutes. Very smart of me to sell them both. They did both blank. But I think it was the best way for me to deal with a Rice no-show was actually to sell him. And the best play to sell him for was Salah and to sell Haaland, because it makes my 31 team a little bit stronger. It also means I don't have to sell as many of the 31 players later. Like I've sold 2 of them now, so I've only got to deal with the 1 defender. Salah plays in 31 and unfortunately has drawn Man City. But if he doubles in 33, then I can play through to 33 much more easily. So because I've used my free hit chip, I've been looking at this not wildcard 32, play through to 32 and 33 from further back. Like that's what I've been aiming at for a while. So actually my team, once it gets to 32, looks quite strong as well. So I've already got, I've got Salah and I've got triple Liverpool against Fulham. I've got Bruno Fernandes. I've got Elliot Anderson. And yeah, I've got strong fixtures. Bowen's playing Wolves. Thiago's playing Everton. And then, got my double Arsenal. So, there's no need to wildcard this. I'd even possibly have a better defender than Lacroix if I've sold them. So I think, yeah, that looks quite... So then I need to see what I need to do for 33. So that's the plan, is sell a defender before the international break, do nothing else, and then be ready to wildcard in 34 or 35 and choose which chip to play in 33, depending on how the fixtures go. But not too much else. Any questions?
Excellent. No, sounds great.
All looks
I mean, yeah, we'll see what Munoz is doing, and yeah, this was bench boostable if you were clear about Munoz's or Anderson's position.
I think if more of the bigger teams had gone out, so maybe if Newcastle had won and Arsenal had lost to Mansfield or some stuff like that, where it looked like bench boost 33 was going to be like the best bench boost 33 wasn't going to be as way good as it looks potentially, then I might have thought about playing it now to then have my transfers to try and manage a bit better rather than having to build my bench up in 32, 33 with the transfers. But yeah, looks fine for now. This is your team.
This is me. I've
Potts
got Potts is back from suspension, so there will be no bench wankery happening. Raya in goal. I've got Hill away to Burnley, and then obviously Gabriel and Van Dijk. So defense looks all right. All home games for my midfielders as well. Dango with his Panenka. Hopefully he still is in the good books. Mbumo, Bruno and Rice. And then Thiago, Ekitike and Haaland. It's a straightforward roll unless...
Rolling to 3.
Rolling to 3.
How
unless
exciting.
There's something with Haaland where I'm not sure about his minutes. Because remember, for Man City, it is a Wednesday, Tuesday turnaround. The Real Madrid games.
Real Madrid games, yeah.
So even if Haaland is like on the floor for 30 seconds in the Real Madrid first leg, Haaland will go to Calvert-Lewin and Potts will become Salah. I have exact money.
Lovely.
So I will use both my free transfers. And in that case, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a good captain for this week. But I think Salah is probably better than Bruno. Here, Haaland is higher than Bruno. I'm going to be captaining Bruno. I don't trust Haaland's minutes.
Yeah. Might dampen
against
them a
West
bit,
Ham.
but...
Yeah. So
inform West Ham.
We'll see the minutes he gets against Real Madrid, how they look. So of course this is all TBD. But at the moment, I'm leaning towards captaining Bruno and rolling. But if anything changes, then it becomes Salah captain, and I use both my free transfers to get Calvert-Lewin has a great game week 31 fixture. Salah, who's got good fixtures, and then that also then sets me up to roll next week and then actually just see if I want to free hit in game week 33 or not.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. I think there's not much to do there. Yeah, I think, I mean, I guess we can talk about captaincy. I'll bring the projections up for this week. If we go to just this week, where have we got them currently? So we do have Salah, op 6.4. Haaland 6.2 is assuming reasonable minutes. I think people have some doubts on that potentially. I don't know if, I guess, would winning Real Madrid easily this week make him more likely to play or less likely to play, or like what would be your ideal scenario if you wanted to keep Haaland? What would be your? I mean,
if he plays the full 90 minutes, I'd be a little worried.
Yeah, I guess it's early sub, get some rest. I mean, he didn't play at the weekend. He didn't play Newcastle. So. He
didn't, but I'd like, if I was to captain him, what I want to see is maybe he gets a goal. I know form is not,
confidence.
He gets a goal. Man City are looking comfortable, and he gets taken off around before the 80th minute, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I can think about it. But if Bruno is right there, home to Villa, very important game for Man United, and I think Villa do allow. There's this famous high line for Villa, and I think it suits Man United. So I'm going a little bit with the model in terms of minutes, where I will adjust Haaland's minutes to get me to the right answer, but also a little bit as a fan, I think it's a good matchup for Man United, the Villa game. So,
and if you think that more people are, I guess it's kind of swinging the other way. It used to be that whenever Haaland and Bruno were close, that the field would generally go for Haaland, and Bruno was I can pick him because he's close and I get some relative risk by picking the less owned player. But people are starting to warm to Bruno a bit more, and people are going a bit colder on Haaland. So I don't know how the split will be, or how many people have Salah, how many people switch to Salah as the top one. But yeah, it's a bit of a gap down to one of the Arsenal players with Saka or Gabriel. I think most people don't have these guys, but might be in there. Who are Arsenal playing again? They've got Everton at home. And Chelsea have got Newcastle. So Parma, maybe. Thiago's got Wolves.
There's some good fixtures this week.
Yeah,
teams are generally looking good.
Probably wouldn't be captaining these guys. I think there's enough of a gap to your premium picks to go for them, but they're not that miles away. Too much for me. I'll be going Salah, who's quite differential as he is anyway, unless Haaland is definitely injured and
where do we have
to him. And
if you double click Haaland, let's just have a look. Where is he?
Those minutes.
Yeah. So 97%
like 83
start.
minutes. Yeah. What would you drop it to? We do some live tinkering.
I have to be honest to myself. 83 actually sounds alright.
Okay.
So
I guess you drop he's more likely to sub off. But probably still starts. I can drop it to 90.
Yeah.
Dynamic model.
There we go.
Where does he drop?
There
we
that's
are.
The goal
now
seek.
level.
That's the goal seek to make
minutes.
it level. There you go.
Now you can captain Bruno and say it's optimal.
I mean, so this is where I am. I may captain Haaland. I might sell him with 2 free transfers, but we'll see after the Real Madrid game.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Excellent. Hopefully that was helpful. That was quite a bit of fixture chat, chip chat, but that's what the people want. So we give people what they want.
Dissection.
We dissected everything.
We did.
Nothing else to dissect.
No, yeah. So if you found it helpful, if you enjoyed, do leave a like. Leave a comment with some other chip strategies. I think there's actually loads. I'm sure people will get quite creative with them.
Wildcard 38, which is basically a free.
I'm not sure about that one. Someone was talking about wildcard 31. You wildcard in the blank before the fixtures, which maybe. But then I guess what you'd do is you'd wildcard 31 and you'd load up on either Liverpool or City, and then free hit whichever one.
I'm here to tell you it's terrible. Whoever
crazy.
Suggested this. Yeah.
Oh, how rude. But I think, have fun. Get creative. Do something different. If you are on the popular likely strategy of wildcard 32, bench boost 33, free hit 34, it's still good. I don't think you need to swap. But I'd have a look. Have a look around to see what else you can do. As you say, you might get to 32 and realise you're making your team worse with a wildcard. You know it's good for later. But very good. We'll see you all
Indeed.
next week, where we've learnt not a lot. Probably be rolling again. Well, I'll have to pick my defender.
No, it'll be an important
Tune in
week.
for
It's just before the first blank game week of the season. So that'll be fun.
Excellent. Right. See you
All
all.
right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. See you next week.